The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists. Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor.
Good evening, good morning, and good night, in no particular order.
Jed Grant from the Open Crypto Alliance.
Good day, good to be here.
Martine Wismare from General Bytes.
Hi, what's up, guys?
Josh Shigala from Vaultoro.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Ben Ark from BTC IoT.
Shwai, hello, good evening.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to Issue 1. Issue 1. China could use Bitcoin as financial weapon against the U.S., Peter Thiel warns. One of the founders of PayPal and a major startup founder around the world, Peter Thiel, cautioned that China could potentially use Bitcoin as a financial weapon against the U.S. While Thiel is a fan of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, he said, "Even though I'm a pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin maximalist person, I do wonder whether at this point Bitcoin should also be thought of in part as a Chinese financial weapon against the U.S. It threatens fiat money, but it especially threatens the U.S. dollar." Dan Eve, your thoughts on China using Bitcoin against the U.S.?
Well, it's obviously quite an interesting and topical take at the moment. Obviously, with the controversy over the PBOC building their own central bank digital currency, which is also possibly going to take on the dollar. But I think generally, the biggest war is the money printing war. That's the biggest threat to any other currency. Is the ability for one currency to print another one. And although it devalues it, it doesn't kind of do it so sharply. And so I think, it's almost, I see it as an act of war, being able to just print loads of money and then be able to use that money to buy assets in other countries, for example, and build up, essentially, assets that you wouldn't have if you didn't print that money out of thin air. So Bitcoin really is just a threat to any global currency, and specifically the US, because of the fact that the dollar is, still the biggest index for oil and everything. So, I think it's interesting that Peter Thiel has kind of come out and said something that's a bit critical of Bitcoin, but also he still declares himself as a maximalist. So it's also, I see a positive that he's able to see, where some of the threats could be to Bitcoin, and also to, he's not, what's the word? He's not scared to voice those. And he's obviously, as a Bitcoin proponent, confident enough that although it could be a threat to the US dollar, this could be more of a prod to, the US, the SEC, and to get them to actually buy more, and the Fed, to buy Bitcoin. If it's a threat, you don't, and you can't kill the threat because you can't kill Bitcoin, then you get the US to buy Bitcoin in order to hedge against it, the dollar going down. And that was kind of one of my old school conspiracy theories, was that maybe the CIA, for example, invented Bitcoin to hedge against the dollar eventually going. And so that million Bitcoin is actually, is owned by the US. And so they're kind of, every now and then they're playing the markets. But ultimately they're sat on a million Bitcoin that is used to hedge against the rest of the rest of the world, slowly taking a percentage of the dollar.
The friend of my enemy is also my friend. Jed Grant, your thoughts on China and Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think China has so much mining power as well. It's kind of, people are afraid of that, but I don't think that's a bad thing at all. It'll get diversified, and China is trying to take down the dollar in any way they can. I just think it is exactly as you just said, Thomas. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and China looks at Bitcoin as maybe a tool that helps it achieve a different dominant fiat currency, whether that's their CBDC or some garbage they cook up with a block of Russia, China, Iran, who knows, but they're all going to be shit coins at the end of the day, and I don't think they're going to take Bitcoin down. So we're pretty good.
Martine Wismare.
Yeah, I think in general, Bitcoin is a threat to fiat currencies because just like the internet gave everybody a voice, Bitcoin gives everybody a wallet. So the internet caused monopolies of information like state television and stuff to basically crumble and break down. And the same thing will happen with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but primarily Bitcoin, breaking down the monopoly that governments have around the world on printing money. But to state that it is China, it's a Chinese weapon, I don't agree on that. Even though a lot of mining power is concentrated in China, Bitcoin is a system based on distrust. Nobody trusts each other. Everybody will want to grab their part of the pie, and they will not cooperate with each other to start 51% attacks because they would hurt their own wallets. And they won't do that. So yes, it might be a danger to fiat currencies, but it's not specifically a Chinese weapon. I disagree with. That's just the China foot in a different package.
We can't
Josh.
forget that Peter Thiel is got the Nixon seal of approval when he said that.
If you can't trust Nixon, who can you trust? Josh Shigala.
I think Dan took the words right out of my mouth. You pretty much said it all, mate. The thing is that what I would add to it is that China isn't a threat. Bitcoin isn't a threat to the US dollar. The Federal Reserve is a threat to the US dollar. They're just screwing it up. Politicians, and China is a threat to their own Federal Reserve or their own bank, their own central bank. And the same with the ECB. The ECB is just printing like crazy. They're all just printing mad, and it's great for them. They can buy real world assets. They can buy islands off of Greece. They can buy acropolises. They can buy property, all for just minting treasuries and borrowing against them. So it's all a nonsense. It's all ridiculous. The thing that you have to do is buy real assets. If Peter Thiel was right, and then gold and silver is also a threat to, and some say it is, and that's why we have groups saying that the silver has been manipulated for years, being pushed down by naked shorts, like the likes of JP Morgan and such. But and that there's definitely a lot of proof that is the case. So maybe he's right, but at the end of the day, what people need to do now is see that and understand what he's actually saying. And what he's actually saying is get the hell out of any fiat, get into rare assets, folks. If you're holding a lot of these currency units in the bank, you're basically saving in a unit of account rather than an asset. And you don't save in a unit of account because there's infinite unit of accounts. They always used to say that Bitcoin was tulips. What the real tulip is fiat. That's the real tulip, folks. So and that's what Peter Thiel's saying, is that's not a tulip. So that's the threat. I think Bitcoin, the biggest threat Bitcoin is for little economies, countries that have small economies, and the citizenry could actually borrow like hell and start buying Bitcoin without not caring if they bankrupt themselves, because they don't care if they've got a black mark on their name. They've got Bitcoin now, and that is an attack vector for smaller economies. But yeah.
Ben
Ark.
Bitcoin is a huge threat to the US, and the US USD is the world reserve currency. We've had the USD as a world reserve currency since the Second World War. And that's why a lot of these proxy wars and wars have happened throughout the world to keep the USD as the world reserve currency and as the unit of account for the world. So yeah, China can use that tool to bypass the USD and then weaken the US economy. And that's true, but that's a good thing. Like the having an apolitical world reserve currency it's the holy grail economically. And it was the idea which Maynard Keynes himself shilled at Bretton Woods, was the idea to have an apolitical medium of account for current for between countries, as opposed to having a world reserve currency. Because just like when the Brits had the British pound as a reserve currency, we tried to bend the world to our will and keep it as a reserve currency. So yeah, it's a good thing, but it is going to weaken US power, of course. But that's the point, and we end up with an apolitical money, and the world will probably be a lot safer and more peaceful because of it.
Exit question: Is Bitcoin is a weapon for China FUD better than energy FUD? Is this the new #1 FUD, even better than Bitcoin is just for drugs FUD back in the day? Dan, Eve.
I think so. I think that the only kind of, well, I suppose that and the greenness is the only kind of viable thing at the moment. And especially where Bitcoin is every now and then you're seeing people tweet about it, gazumping, a whole country's money supply. I think that's going to slowly bring people to realize that slowly, but like a slap in the face, it hits you, as it jumps up, that it's going to take over all the world currencies. So it's just a case of how long it takes for that to happen before people go, we can't stop the trade. If we can't stop it.
Jed, Grant. I'm still muted, yeah.
Hi, yeah, sorry. Could you repeat the question? I was distracted.
Is China FUD the new #1 FUD?
No, I don't think it is. I see the energy FUD coming back in spades right now. They're really pumping that. And the way the FUD is in the media at the moment, I think it looks very desperate. It's been debunked so many times, and you see these people just getting more and more desperate. There's an article in Nature about the energy use in China that is just insane. I mean, it's insane that they can print this stuff and call it fact still.
Martine Wishmayer.
I think the energy FUD indeed is more will continue for longer. It's they keep adding countries to make it even more sensational. First, it was just like they used the same amount as Luxembourg, and that was Luxembourg, Belgium, and France. And now it's like it's Brazil and all of Latin America. So they keep adding countries to make it even more like so much energy. But Bitcoin would remain secure even if it would only have half the miners. The hash power is enormous. So I'm not too worried about it, but I think the reason why they keep pushing this energy agenda, because companies buying Bitcoin, they are not environmentally friendly. That's the whole thing behind it. Even though, getting minerals out of the ground and melting it and then putting it in a central bank vault, if there's even such a thing as gold-backed currency, is not very environmentally friendly either. And they say you waste energy by mining Bitcoin. I don't think it is. We get something really, really valuable back. And it's something we should realize. People that think Bitcoin is worthless and it's just a mania, tulip mania, and it's its eventual value will be zero. It'll go down to zero. Yeah, then it's a waste of energy. I don't think it will go down to zero. I think it's very valuable, and therefore I don't think it does use that much electricity. But the electricity one is definitely, the energy FUD will definitely survive the new version of the China FUD, because they tried that China FUD so many times. It's I don't think it even sticks if they put it in like a new article. So the energy FUD will be the one to watch.
Well, as you might have heard, Kevin Leary from Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, claims that he's buying only Bitcoin that's not minted in China, and only Bitcoin that's minted with renewable power. And I wish him the best of luck in telling that Bitcoin apart from the other Bitcoin. Josh Segala, your thoughts on China being the new #1 FUD?
Well, the thing is, governments and the industrial media complexes always need their boogeyman. Obviously, we haven't had terrorism for a while, have we? No, it's all been COVID. So terrorists have disappeared. So the next thing what we need is of course, now that the COVID boogie monster is almost dead and they've milked a lot of cash from that cow, it's on to China. China will be next. So whatever they can throw at China, that'll be the new boogeyman that we all have to fear. You know, in the 80s, I think it was I think we had Russia, you know, and that was, and you see it in Hollywood too, always the Russian or the German accents, the evil, and then of course the terriblists. And then actually there was a little break in between there. You had like the serial killers were the thing for a while. You had to watch out for all your neighbors' serial killer. There's always a boogeyman. Next is China. We'll see. And maybe that will be part of the whole game, is using Bitcoin. I think one big FUD that hasn't really come out yet is terrorists and pedos and stuff using it. So I think that's what could come up next, is some awful thing where everyone like looks at you like, are you like one of those if you use Bitcoin? Because that's quite an easy card to pull, and I'm surprised they haven't pulled that one yet. So as big as they could, but yeah.
Underground payments, the FUD of the future. Ben Ark, is China the best?
It is, as I said, it is a threat to US hegemony. And for the US, they should, you know, for the government or whatever, if it wants to keep its nation's power over and tight grip over the rest of the world, then it should certainly try and fight Bitcoin in any way it can. But it's treason, and that's why it's there, is to bypass things like the US sanctions, which they levy on all these countries. So I think a lot of the poorer countries will do a lot better by trading using Bitcoin. So I wouldn't be surprised if, this is like a front which is used to attack Bitcoin from the US. And on the energy stuff, like, I think it's okay to admit that Bitcoin's carbon footprint is very high for on-chain transactions, and we should use transactions in a much more sophisticated way and cram as much data into them as possible, and take transactions off-chain when we can, and get the most out of a transaction. And then also, push for miners to be using renewables. We can lobby miners, and we can help build out infrastructure so they use renewables more. And it's not a bad thing to admit that Bitcoin does use a lot of energy, and it has got a heavy carbon footprint, but it's something which can be addressed. And energy usage itself is always correlated with a society's development. The more energy a society uses, the more it's developed. That's just the way it works. But we need to, obviously, in all areas of our society, we need to use energy in a more efficient, renewable way. And for Bitcoin, I think this is a great opportunity for us to say, a transaction, me sending value from on-chain from me to you is heavy on a carbon footprint, but this is why we're pushing for this off-chain second layer stuff, and then roll out second layer more and cram thousands of transactions into that one transaction. Makes it much more efficient.
Moving on to issue 2. Issue 2, Riot blockchain. Riot blockchain has just bought the largest Bitcoin hosting facility in the United States for $651 million. The firm is buying Whinstone.us in exchange for $651 million in cash and stock. Riot blockchain will purchase all of Whinstone's assets and operations, with more than 300 megawatts currently developed and a projected power capacity of 750 megawatts. Riot blockchain hopes this will be the largest publicly traded Bitcoin mining and hosting company in North America. They also purchased 42,000 ant miners. Jed Grant, is Riot blockchain making the worries about China go away? Is Bitcoin going to be mined in the US of A?
I do like to see an improvement in the hash rate in the US. I think it balances things out. But what I'd really like to see even more is mining in other countries that are outside the jurisdictional reach of the big boys. I'd like to see mining in small countries on bigger scales, so that we get real decentralization. If we get too much mining concentrated in the US. I'm pretty sure the US is going to start to regulate that pretty heavily, and it's going to change the game. So this is probably a great investment for them. It's going to pan out pretty well over the next 10 years. And it is good to see the hash rate get evened up with China a little bit. But other countries are also something we need to push for.
Josh Sigala, all the Chinese FUD is over. Bitcoins are mined in the US now. But you're still unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly, Jed. As much as possible outside of the US and China would be great. I have seen news articles where these chips are becoming so commoditized now that you can they're becoming just so easy to produce. So I feel that I hope that we'll go back to also just putting them in heaters and things like that. Things like that. There's all these strange use cases that, I mean, the worst one was way back in the day when some company wanted to make light bulbs mine. I don't know why that was an interesting idea, but especially that light bulbs actually produce heat. Like, it's just weird. But anyway, heaters are great. In fact, that's how I sold myself the fact that I wanted to buy this really hefty computer, not only to mine crypto during the winter when it could heat the home, but I could also work out in VR.
Ben Ark.
Sorry, I couldn't press the mute thing. Yeah, it's good. Obviously, butting up against the Moore's law, and these miners are becoming scarcer and scarcer, and they have a longer lifespan than they used to have. So, you know, it's a good buy. It decentralizes mining a little bit more, puts in different countries, which is great. And we will see, obviously, mining. You know, this is one of the things we've been saying in Bitcoin forever, that mining does try and find, you know, nice cheap energy sources, and there's plenty of that in places like Iceland and wherever else. So it isn't forever going to be concentrated in China and on subsidized coal power plant. Bitcoin mining, it will spread around the world. But no, it's a good buy for them. And it's funny to hear in the article, you know, Bitmain still going there, producing all the AMP miners. Obviously, you know, they were dethroned somewhat catastrophically, but it's amazing that they're still running as a company, particularly with some of the craziness which was happening behind the scenes. But yeah, we want to see more companies producing miners. So we want to see more countries with miners in. So yeah, actually, it's a good purchase on their behalf.
Martin Wismayer.
I think it's great news to see a bit of decentralization, but as Jets pointed out, as soon as all the mining is done in the US, there probably will be FATF lists of transactions which are prohibited from mining, and there'll be all this regulatory nonsense. So I hope they use green energy, by the way. I didn't see anything in the article that said whether they're using wind power or hydro power, because, you know, otherwise it's the dirty Bitcoins. You know, you gotta have the green energy. So this is why I'd like to see more mining happening in Iceland. Iceland was always like a choice back in the days, but it's been problematic importing the miners there and getting stuff there. Everything is so remote, but Iceland is perfect for that. You just dig a hole in the ground and steam comes out, and put a generator on that, and you've got yourself geothermal energy as much as you want. So I really like to see those countries picking up too. And but you know, anything outside of China is great. It's not that I don't trust or like the Chinese, but it's a bit of a hassle behind this Chinese wall or internet wall of, you know, their big firewall. So it's good, also good for stability of the network, that we see mining becoming more decentralized. As Josh pointed out, you know, he wants his heater to run as a Bitcoin miner. I tried doing that back in 2014 or 2015, I don't know. But, you know, heaters tend to like switch on and off frequently when they reach the temperature. And that's just the thing you can't do with miners. They got to be on all the time. So regulating the heat that comes out of your mining equipment, except that, you know, it's noisy, so you have to do it liquid cooled or something. I think I do see a possibility that I heat the swimming pool with miners, because that would the miners will be running in a separate room, and then the heat generated there, which is never enough, would just be used to heat the swimming pool. But for heating a home, I think there will be issues there. And the light bulb thing, what Josh mentioned, I forgot the name, but it was just a proof of concept.
Who was that?
And the idea was that you would put all the light bulbs into places where you don't pay for the electricity. So, if you have a company or something, and it's included, your electricity bill is paid for by the monthly lease, then you just replace all the light bulbs with those mining light bulbs. But they only had one chip on it, and they were never powerful enough. So forget it. They won't even generate a few satoshis. It's really a different game nowadays.
That's even worse. Is just for sneaking power off of people. But it was Bitfury, and they demonstrated it at Richard Branson's island. Allegedly, they had it in a big suitcase, like this is the magical light bulb, the light bulb that's going to mine Bitcoin. And they're still a big company today. The other one worth noting is 21.co. They were going to put Bitcoin miners into Wi-Fi routers, because you want to heat those up more, and into toasters, because that's going to heat up more, and you want to toast all the time too. And it made a lot of sense the whole time, right up until they sold whatever was left to Coinbase.
Except that it didn't make sense, because if you put a miner in there, you have to get a bigger power supply. You have to get all this extra stuff, which makes your product, which is normally a consumer product, more expensive. You need the power supplies to have copper and everything, so they become more expensive. So it makes no sense. And
there was the tomatoes, wasn't there, heating the polytunnels, the tomato polytunnels. That was nice, taking the heat from the miners and then pushing it into.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Pushing it into a greenhouse, because tomatoes won't have a problem with all the noise. But that never really took off.
I sing to my tomatoes. They don't have a problem.
It does affect the growth quality of the vegetables. Dan, Eve, your thoughts on mining Bitcoin in the United States?
I must admit, the first thing I thought when reading the article as well was about the fact that Bitmain is still going. It's not the sort of thing I've checked up in a while, and I kind of stopped subscribing to their emails after I bought a load of miners in 2017, and anyway, so I didn't buy Bitcoin miners though, because it was just way too competitive. So it was, sadly my dash. But the interesting things, the crypto buyouts that we're not seeing, or I expect to see more happening of, like even traditional company takeovers. So it's interesting that these are two existing crypto companies, but I'd like to see, something like a big mining company that take over an existing, I don't know, like power plant, for example. See more news of that. But renewable power plant, of course. So just also the fact that there's, I think 7.7, they're increasing exahashes, they're increasing the power to, which at the moment, I think they said the goal was October 2021. At the moment, it's the rate's 150 over the last 24 hours. So that actually would put them on 5% of that current mining power, which is quite a significant amount, considering we're trying to push for we favor decentralization of miners. But just a few quick facts. So the last 24 hours, 856.25 Bitcoins have been mined, which is about 49.6 million, and 112. This is quite cool. 112 Bitcoin of fees mined. That's about 6.5 million in fees. So we don't really talk about fee mining a lot. And some interesting news recently was that interesting news that I read recently around the miners not selling anymore. They're starting to hodl. They're like, we're no longer pushing it straight to the market. We're no longer dumping on the market. We're just gonna hold tight and see where it goes. And one last thing, this mining in the Sahara, right? If you always see that picture that goes around on the internet, on the line, and it says, oh, if we just put all these this small area here in the Sahara, we could power the entire world. Why aren't there miners out there? Surely, I suppose it's for latency maybe, but if you're going to make that much money because you've got free electricity, then surely you can run a cable somewhere, right? I don't know. Maybe we'll see mining in the Sahara.
I would like to see that. It would be fun. Let's move to the exit question. My parents' brother's cousin's next door neighbor's best friend just heard about Bitcoin last week, and they want to get into Bitcoin mining. They've got some computers. Is there still a chance for them, or is it all these giant mining farms? Jed Grant.
Yeah, they should probably not jump straight into mining. People that come now with that question, though, the good answer is to convince them to get a Raspberry Blitz or equivalent and spin up their own node and run a node in the Lightning Network, and actually tell them the story that providing liquidity on the Lightning Network today is like mining was in 2014, 2013. So if you get in now and start running your own Lightning nodes and you start establishing trusted channels and providing liquidity, in 5 to 10 years, you might be a big boy in the liquidity game in Lightning. So that's where the getting's good now.
Josh Sigala, can I get you a Bitcoin miner?
Yeah, Jed, that's a really important point to make, and it should be made on a daily basis. Yeah, I still like the idea of solo mining with a single tiny little USB stick and treating it like a lottery ticket, because it's super cheap now. It cost me, I don't know, $10 to buy this thing, and I chuck it in and it just sort of, hey, it could find that nonce. It could find that nonce. And you never know, you could be lucky. I think the chances are probably better than the lottery. I don't know. Some mathematician is going to have to tell me the answer.
Chances are pretty bad. Let's go Ben Ark.
I quite like the fact that when you get people who've never really thought about Bitcoin so much and they ask you about Bitcoin nowadays, it used to be that everyone always said, oh, what is this? I can mine this on my computer, can't I? Whereas now people don't say that when they say, what is this Bitcoin thing? Or they say it less, at least, because that used to be the standard, what is Bitcoin? I heard I can mine it on my computer. So thankfully, this concept of mining Bitcoins on your computer is going, because it's impossible and a waste of time even trying. But yeah, spinning up nodes. I don't think that there's a business model for having any sort of profitable return as a routing node for fees, because I think you've got payment splitting, and it's always a race to the bottom fee wise. And there'll be plenty of nodes who'll just do that for transactions for free in the future. But I do think that things like these liquidity pools, like using all that liquidity which is sloshing around in the Lightning Network, because it's a hot wallet, and they're, like the stuff which Alan Deere are doing with their liquidity pool, you can, loan your Bitcoin out in a very secure, cryptographically secure way, and then get some return on it, get some yield on it. So I think there's going to be a lot more of that happening, because this money which is on the Lightning Network, you can slosh around, it can do all, you can lubricate economic growth in a way which you can't do with Bitcoin on chain. And I think there will be a business model. I think people who do have money on Lightning will be able to get some return from it doing that. And that's a much more sensible thing to do with your, if you want to try earning some money with Bitcoin. But as always, the best thing with Bitcoin is just buy some, don't do anything with it for 5 years, then retire.
Martin Wismayer.
I think Jed's point and Ben's point of providing liquidity on the Lightning Network. I've heard of some of the guys, I don't know the exact details, some of the guys in the Dutch Bitcoin channels on Telegram, they're doing just that, and it's and they're making about 6% APR on it. So that's better than most banks give you nowadays. It's relatively low risk or no risk. So, but I would have advised against mining at home. The idea is nice, but it's a big boys game now. You need megawatts, and it's not going to cut it with a USB stick that Josh found in his closet or his computer drawer, because I tried that not too long ago, just 2 years ago, one of the old USB sticks with extra USB power, and I had a Raspberry Pi, so I connected it. And the thing is, before you even finish your workload and you can submit it, that is already a new block. So in practice, it will never, ever, ever be able to submit its work done to the pool before the next block is in. So that means that you are using electricity, but you're never ever, you're contributing literally nothing. But I saw one art project, which was really nice. It was at Parallelnipolis a few years ago. And they made an art, a sort of like a artwork, and it was called Pecunia non ole, meaning, I think it's Latin for money doesn't stink. So what they did is they had a Raspberry Pi, they connected one of the USB miners, and the USB miners was this on a sort of like stone plate, and they had drops of lavender oil in the workspace. So the heat generated by the mining, basically the miner was creating money, was giving the scent of lavender out in the workspace. So yes, money doesn't stink. It smelled like lavender. So that was, and a little sign, it said the name of the artwork. So yeah, I think there's definitely use for those USB miners. And if I find one, I'll recreate the artwork to have some lavender scent or other essential oil diffuser scent. But yeah, but if they're new to mining, it's really just cheaper to just purchase some on an exchange, wait for the dip or DCA your way in and buy some sats every month or week, and then that just enjoy your Bitcoin. It's also less frustrating, keeps the peace at home, because those miners are so noisy. You know, it was either, I had to choose either be single again or the miner out of the house. So I shut down the miner. So yeah, don't mine. Look into like building a node with a Raspberry Pi. You'll learn a lot. If you're not that savvy with computers, use the Get Umbrel node. Ben has made LN Blitz, LN Bits. So with the LN Bits, you can start your own experiments on the Lightning Network. You can also use the node to start providing liquidity on the Lightning Network. So you'll learn a lot more. It's a lot less frustrating. It's a lot less noisy, and it's not as expensive either, because to get into mining, you really have to get some equipment. Those sell at a premium. There will be no new miners coming out until the end of the year. So anything that's out there gets snapped up by the big boys. So you're not gonna be successful. It will be a frustrating experience. And at World Crypto Network, we really want your crypto experience to be smooth sailing. So get a Raspberry Pi, start a node, get cracking on that, and just buy some Bitcoin.
Dan, Eve, it sounds like it's going to be really difficult to mine Bitcoin at home unless I'm interested in air freshener. What about graphics cards? Is there anything I could do with graphics cards, Dan?
I must admit, I'm so sad that you can't mine with graphics cards, because I started off with two GTX 680s, and you could just about wean something out that was more than power. And then I bought some block eruptor cubes, and then got stung by Firefly Labs, and then probably another few companies, and yada yada yada. But it was so, and then I moved, and then I built a mining farm for shitcoins, and yeah, mining. Yeah, I remember mining Flappy Coin and all sorts of other absolute crap. But the point was, it was fun. It was like, it was fun sweating at 4 a.m, going, one of my miners is down, and just fiddling around with it in CG Miner and stuff. And I kind of really, really miss all that, really miss it. So it's kind of a shame that it did go to ASICs, and that you couldn't just do it in fun, inventive ways that would have got more people involved, even was it Peter Todd who explained how you could do it via pen and paper? Obviously, that wouldn't be competitive, but no, I miss the mining with graphics cards. It was a cool part of life. So it's a shame that it's not kind of something that people can do from home. And realistically, even if it's getting batches of miners or getting in on one of a miner of a new batch, you've got to have cheap electricity. And yeah, as everyone said, you might as well just buy Bitcoin and then shove it into Lightning liquidity and then earn a yield off that. Or obviously mine shitcoins, but that's not financial mining advice.
I want to go against the group here, and I want to argue for everyone to mine at home, because mining at home gives you all the experience of being a system administrator. Remember those guys with the pagers who always had to leave the party early because the servers melted down? That could be you. If your air conditioning ever turns off, your miner's going to overheat and maybe burn down your house. That could be you. All the time you're running the miner, the fans are getting weaker and weaker, and the chips are getting hotter, and your hardware is getting worse and worse. That could be you for pennies a day. So yes, at home mining, there's still a chance for you. Maybe you could get Ethereum or some other coin and trade it for like 3 other coins, and you're going to make so much money. You're not going to pay gas fees. It's going to be sweet. Moving on, do you know the World Crypto Network has its own Clips channel? Subscribe to WCN Clips today. Just search on YouTube for WCN space Clips and subscribe. We've got all kinds of great clips like Tesla now accepting a Bitcoin, Bitcoin going down 90%, Bitcoin experts explain outcome of China's Bitcoin FUD. Just a month ago, we were talking about China, and now we're back again. Check out WCN Clips and be sure to subscribe. You could be one of the first 100 subscribers to WCN Clips, and then push share like a whole bunch of times. Moving on to issue 3, Bitcoin price prediction. Why Bitcoin could rocket to $400,000 in 2021. Because I've got bills to pay. The price of Bitcoin has soared by 400% since its latest bull run, but it's not good enough for anybody. They want more. Even Tesla billionaire Elon Musk wants more, but he also wants Dogecoin to go up. Now, a Bloomberg analyst has predicted the Bitcoin price could hit $400,000 this year. He says the technical outlook for Bitcoin in 2021 remains strongly upward if past patterns repeat. He says that Bitcoin is on similar ground as the roughly 55x gain in 2013 and 15x in 2017. To reach price extremes akin to those years in 2021, the crypto would approach $400,000 based on the regression since the 2011 high. Josh Segala, will the price of Bitcoin break $400,000 this year?
It could. I mean, if Forbes says so. Yeah, I love how they pull out these like experts and everyone's like, ooh, Forbes is now saying 400. And then what happens is after the fact, they're like, yes, who we got on the show today? The guy that predicted 400 and it's now there. Like, what a genius. And there's so many of those people now because there's 21 million of these things. There's never going to be any more. Of course, it's going to reach some ridiculous price eventually. And I'm surprised it's already at 50. I mean, the real question is, where is your moon?
Ben Ark.
Yeah, I mean, wow, it's a bit of a reach, but I think like $250,000 is very feasible. And I think that was our target originally in this bull run. When you go across, when you look at all the historical runs and then just literally superimpose the hockey stick on the chart, then we end up at like 230k. Doesn't feel like a top at the moment at all, really. Like obviously it's high, and everyone, it's eye-wateringly high. But it doesn't feel like it did in 2017. Doesn't feel like completely unreasonable. And we've only just started having these big investment firms and funds joining in. So there's still a load of like low-hanging fruit for people for people buying into Bitcoin. So yeah, no, maybe not 400k. That might be a bit of a reach, but this is part of the game, isn't it? Is that now we start to get the ridiculous predictions and the person who can predict the highest is the person who hits the headlines in the papers. So it's kind of incentivized. But I think 200,000 is actually fairly reasonable, which is insane. I'm amazed at the cost of sats. Like I'm so used to playing around with like Lightning Network and throwing these sats around. And now I'm like throwing sats around and, for like 10,000 sats or whatever. And then I think, oh, crikey, that's actually worth money now. It's not like throwaway chump change. It's actually worth money. So I can't do that anymore. And then I don't want to look back at all the sats which I've just given out or thrown around without thinking about how much is going to go up in the future. But yeah, I think 230,000 makes sense, and then in the future, obviously higher. But 400k is a bit of a reach.
Martine Wishmayer, will the price of Bitcoin break 399,999.99? Because 400 is too much for Ben.
Putting a time frame on it is difficult, but what we've seen in the past, it was always gradually and then suddenly. So where this bull run will take us, I don't know. As I think Ben just said, it's it's all-time high price almost, and we're not even like in the FOMO craziness yet. So it looks like the new normal. So it wouldn't surprise me. It is true that we get these bullish, more bullish, most bullish predictions. And then like, Bloomberg said, it will be 500,000 in 2025. So, if you make the higher prediction, everybody will like and retweet you. So I think this is why they do it. But as I said, it wouldn't surprise me. This is why, we don't give investment advice, but here at World Crypto Network, we're not selling either.
Martin, that's part of my favorite joke from the Great Depression. They say, oh, how did you go broke, Mr. Rockefeller? And he says, at first slowly, and then all at once. Dan Eve, your thoughts on the Bitcoin price?
Well, the problem is, like, when Bitcoin was like, $1,000. Well, I mean, when I first started, it was 75, and even then I kind of knew this is going to dominate, but you don't realize about the scale of it, and thinking, I mean, $60,000 like back then would have been like, oh my god, this is insanity. You wouldn't have believed it, and probably lots of Bitcoin maximalists back then wouldn't have as well. But obviously, as time goes past, you realize how ridiculous life is, and the fact is that this 400,000 prediction, I sat there and I almost needed to slap myself in the face, and I was like, yeah, 400,000, that seems about right. And I was like, no, that's lunacy. And then I thought, well, no, it's not, because when it was 1,000, I didn't think 19,000 would be, or 19,000, whatever, 100 it was in December 2017, and then recently going up to 60. There's no way, even in like a November last year, I'd have been like 60k. Like, yeah, probably, I don't know, few years, keep slow. And I feel like the tortoise and the hare, like that I sat there, even myself, thinking, taking it too easy, and then Bitcoin, like with a rocket up its ass, just went like that, and it just mooned, and it's going to do that again. And I agree that it doesn't feel like the top of the market. Although what I will say is that my mum phoned me today, and she said, I tried to call you earlier, and I was like, oh, I saw you missed call, Mum. She said, okay, well, I sold some of my Bitcoin. And I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, I heard about this Cardano. There's going to be smart contracts next week. And I was like, oh my God, it's going to be the top. So hopefully she didn't make a move. But no, I think that 400K isn't too out there. But I don't know. Maybe this bull run. Is it outside of the lines? Is everyone going by stock to flow? Is it outside the lines of stock to flow, or is it still inside the lines at 400K?
He makes those lines pretty hard to read.
It's outside, yeah.
There's like a range. It's in the box, like
between 100K and 288. Yeah. So 400K is really pushing it into the red zone. I think Josh is always looking at this rainbow moon math.win charts. So it wouldn't know if it's within those lines either.
It's beautiful. Moon.math. Can't get enough of that.
One thing I will say on the prediction side, though, is fun fact: 100% of the people that predicted the world would end have all been incorrect.
Even Nostradamus. However, seeing Paris Hilton and Dan's mom both lining up for Bitcoin, that could be the sign of the apocalypse. Jed Grant, your thoughts on the price of Bitcoin and 400,000?
I agree with what Ben said. I think 400K this year is a bit of a stretch. Predictions are always tough because of the timeline. I think 400,000 is a no-brainer. It's just a question of when. The best prediction that I've seen recently was Perianne Boring from the Digital Chamber of Commerce. She did a little interview, and she said something at the end of it. She said, by 2029, one Bitcoin will equal 10,000 ounces of gold. That means $17.5 million per coin.
Nice.
2020, 29. All we have to do is just count down. We'll just like wait. I'll just sit here.
Just hang out.
And I like that she's calculating in gold. I mean, this is what Voltura is all about, is trying to get away from the US dollar, trying to stop calculating this stuff in this funny, like imagine we've got this rare thing. Let's measure it on this thing that we've got infinite of. It makes no sense. There's no reality there. I mean, you know, the fact of the matter is the only reason there is a reality there is because you also measure corn, pork bellies, and a whole bunch of real commodities against this weird funny money stuff. So you can get a sort of a feel, but it's very difficult with inflation and the amount of jiggery pokery going on there and manipulation. And when airline stocks are at all-time high, yet they're all grounded, I don't trust anything anymore.
I also thought it was a good idea for her to choose gold because it kind of changed the opponent, where Bitcoin versus fiat is a big fight. Bitcoin versus gold, that could be kind of like a warm-up fight, maybe like a Jerry Quarry or something like that. So moving on to issue 4. Issue 4, the stock market versus Bitcoin versus fine art and trading cards. Bang went the gavel at Sotheby's Austrian House on May 18th, 2017. It was a historic night as Untitled, a painting by Jean-Michel Basquiat, had just sold for $110 million. But now, more and more people are buying NFTs for even more than the Basquiat painting. Pokemon cards are going for $360,000, or you could buy boring old Bitcoin or maybe stock in Walt Disney. Are these all the same things? Are they all different things? Which one should I be buying and when? Let's go to Josh Skagala first. Bitcoin, fine art, Disney stock. What do you want, Josh? NFTs?
You know, investments it's a funny thing because you really have to know what you're doing. In the gold industry, we at Voltura would deal with bullion, with just bars, serialized LBMA bars, and that's what I'm good at because there's no real need to think about that. But there are a lot of people in the gold space that like coins and they like the pretty pictures and and there's a whole massive industry and culture behind collecting coins and rare coins. So you have to be in that headspace. And for fine art, I mean, art is a weird space, which is predominantly run by ways to wash money, really. Let's just face it. But generally, you have to really understand who an artist is, how many they created, where the fakes are. Wines are the same. Wines are, there's a whole industry of people collecting rare wine and even whiskey. So it depends where your passion lies. I personally am not a big fan of the NFT thing. I think there is definitely a lot of money for famous people to like for Jack to do his first tweet, and that's like something, and you can say, yeah, this is Jack's first tweet. I own the right to resell it. There is something there. There is something with big boxes and the NBA and stuff, but just generally people pumping gifts out and stuff. I don't know. I think if you're already a famous artist or a great rapper like the crypto rapper here, then you might have something there. Or if you were the first, like Mad Bitcoins over here, to create NFTs. You also had colored coins. It's weird. NFTs like this new big thing, and it's been around forever. But anyway, have fun.
It's all the rage right now, Josh. And will you believe it? I can get you an NFT of a wine bottle. It's a digitized wine collectors club. You would own the right to drink the bottle, something like that. Just launched this morning. My entire Twitter feed is all NFTs now.
Really? Yeah.
Ben Ark, your thoughts on NFTs and Bitcoin and Disney stock?
Do they, like with the Banksy thing, they burnt it. Do they drink the bottle of wine, then NFT it, or do they give you the NFT and then you can drink? The bottle of wine still exists.
The bottle would still exist, but I think you'd drink the wine.
weird.
And that's a complicated question for the value of the NFT. Really kind of a religious thing, you know, about the spirit and the vessel. It's a complex. They've been arguing about this since the 16th century and such.
Well, like the ship of Theseus stuff.
Yep.
To me, it's kind of a bit like stamp collecting or something. Like you can pay a load of money for something that's a bit shit, and it's completely useless. But if enough people want to do that and then swap them and whatever else stamp collectors use. So stamp collecting used to be very popular among people diversifying wealth, and it makes sense in our digital world. We've got to remember as well that like this huge phenomenon that's happened in the past 12 months with COVID. We've been digitally bootstrapped. We're now in 2025. So, it's like, welcome to Bitcoin 2025. And when you have these crazy $500,000 price predictions for Bitcoin 2025, then, okay, maybe it is realistic because we've been catapulted a bunch of years into the future because everyone's suddenly become digitally native. So, it was always fairly obvious that there will be these digitally scarce things on the internet. People find value in them and they'll diversify into art, into game items, into whatever else. Then, so maybe some of this stuff makes sense for some people. To me, it's kind of like stamp collecting, though. That's kind of cool. You can look through them, you can swap them, and whatever.
And you should check out my cornflakes collection. It's great.
Yeah, I do think there's huge value in like the early
stamps are an interesting example because stamps can actually be used for postage. Although the ones you'd want to collect are probably the errors and the ones you wouldn't want to use for postage. But
can you still use those ones? I know he does his Brewster's Millions, but I don't know if you can actually use like a penny black for actual postage.
Brewster's Millions. Tulips are awesome.
But yeah, no, I do think it's the Godfather Curio cards that you should probably go underground now, Thomas, because soon people will be after you and your fortune, your Curio card fortune.
Oh yeah, we're gonna break the NFT fad. Don't you worry about that. Martine Wismare, your thoughts on NFTs, Bitcoin, and Disney stock?
Thomas, I'm culturally as flat as a pancake. I'm not really an art collector. I just like street art. I wouldn't burn my Bitcoins on any artwork really. I just want to have the Bitcoins and I want to have something I can hang on the wall. I did notice that there is now a company that launched a frame, a digital photo frame, where digital picture frame, it's like a television set, but with a nice frame. You can hang it on the wall and you can use it to display your NFT art. But then no NFT art, it's useless product for me. But, I like the ideas. I like the idea that you can now make digital art that's actually worth something, because before that it was just copy paste. And I think if people like it, and if it's art, if people have the discussion whether something is art or not. If they have the discussion, then it's art. So but for me now, I'll just buy my sats.
If you use the power of imagination, you can pretend that some of your Bitcoin are Picassos and some are Cézanne and some are Monets. And this 0.001 represents a Basquiat to me. And that's just as good as owning the NFT for a Basquiat. Dan Eve, your thoughts on the exciting new world of Bitcoin and NFTs?
Well, it kind of boils back as other examples people have said about it being so subjective, and I wouldn't pay money for like the bed in the Tate Modern that I went to when I was I'm sure it was there when I was in college, and like poo and stains on it and stuff, and it was like and someone paid loads of money for it, and like fair beans, they want a poo stained bed. I don't know what they do with it, whether they use it or just have it in a room somewhere, whoever bought it, but whatever tickles your fancy, whatever tickles your gizzards ultimately. But I don't know, baseball cards have been mentioned. I think in the article actually it said about the baseball cards sold for $5.2 million, and for someone to pay that much, they obviously kind of want to, and if there's it's a free market, right? So if people want to buy shitcoins, they'll buy shitcoins. If people want to buy stamps, so in my rap I actually reference bag hodling philatelist about collecting Bitcoin like it's stamps. And then you go to the extra level, and there was virgin Bitcoin being sold. So Bitcoin that at a premium, because it's virgin Bitcoin, it hasn't been spent before, it's fresh from it was fresh or whatever. So will there be other values that would be, Bitcoin events, for example, money, Bitcoin that could be traced that ends up selling for more for some reason, because just owning that Bitcoin in the wallet that was from X event or whatever, does that have value? I don't know. Maybe it does. And talking of that, going back to our refresh about 2 years ago of that fateful trip from CoinFest to Malta, where Mad Bitcoins and I delivered a satellite to Adam back. And unfortunately, I accidentally sold the Bitcoin that Adam Mack gave us for expenses. And I was meant to keep it forever and be like, look at this, it was from Adam. But no, I sold the damn stuff. So I can't even remember how. It's obviously on multiple wallets or something.
And just think, someone owns those collectors Bitcoin now, and they don't even know. They don't even know they came from Adam Back.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's all subjective, and some people like the fact that Banksy shredded his thing. You remember was it Christie's as well? I'd imagine probably. It's on the wall, and suddenly the hammer goes and it goes meh, and they're like, ah. So yeah, subjectivity is cool. It gives varieties. It makes us all different because we value things in different ways. And one of the things that I explained to people about Bitcoin, back in the day, was that it's whether you give it a value or not. Because there's an argument about the intrinsic value of Bitcoin, whether it's just the value of the work that's been done, or the value of the electricity, or the value of the combined work and electricity of setting up the miners and twinkering all night and justifying that's how much you spend the Bitcoin for. Now that's all subjective. So I think I kind of all for it. At the end of the day, it's a free market, and if people want to buy poo stain beds and crazy stuff like that for silly amounts of money, then why not?
First of all, Kevin O'Leary would be able to tell you if that is Adam Back's coin. But I just also wanted to say that
finally we found a good use for chain analysis. We've been searching and we found it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that was it.
Oh, well, speaking of poo-stained beds, there's a girl on OnlyFans who's selling her used bathwater each month for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Jed Grant, would you accept just the NFT, or would you want the actual bathwater?
You need the real deal. You need to get delivery. Yeah, I don't know what you'd put it in. It'd be kind of heavy, but yeah, NFTs are interesting. That article, though, is really shilling stocks, and companies, dilute themselves the way the Fed debases the currency. So most stocks are very dangerous in that you get diluted rather regularly. So while the company itself is a unit that is a special, unique thing, the stock is limitless and not that. And with NFTs, I think we're in an interesting phase because everyone's trading like pretty shells. That's what we're doing with NFTs right now. And people haven't realized that these pretty shells can do a lot more than just be traded. And I want to see some NFT art that does things like sells itself, so that you can't hoard it. Just randomly, the art, the NFT will say, hey, I'm going to sell myself. I'm for sale. Anybody going to buy me? And then that NFT could be bought out of someone's wallet just by paying to the, through smart contracts. You could do all this stuff, and you can set it so that you don't lose money. It has to be sold for more than it, nobody gets cheated, but that way you can't hoard it. You can't just say this is my art and nobody can have it, and I'd like to see more clever and interesting use cases for NFTs. There are also a lot of real use cases. I'm actually building right now a solution that ultimately will get to the point where you can use an NFT with a zero knowledge proof to do KYC. So you can get rid of all that KYC bullshit. And the NFT becomes what you transmit to the service provider instead of your passport and your picture of your face and all that crap. So you just give them an NFT that says, hey, I'm clean. And they don't need to know who you are or anything. All they know is your address that you're transacting from. And that's where I think NFTs have some really interesting use cases when you tie them into real world. And we're going to need them, because you can't do DeFi with flash loans and this kind of stuff without some kind of instant trust that needs to be done. So what we're doing is like an NFT trust token, non-fungible trust token.
Yeah, I love that idea. I've been talking about that for years, wanting to remove, having one step removal from KYC so I can turn it off if I get stolen. I think that's great. I'm really looking forward to seeing a solution there, Jed.
Yeah, I'll share the white paper with you.
Awesome.
And that reminds me, of course, what they say in Soviet Russia. In Soviet Russia, you don't sell the art sells you. And this question's going to be a disaster, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Exit question. Have you bought any NFTs? Which one is your favorite? Josh Shigala.
I bought some rare Pepes back in the day. But no, I just quickly want to add to Jeb some of the other use cases of NFTs. What I really like is we had this big problem with mortgage-backed securities in 2008, and the fact matter is that banks didn't know where the heck who owned what anymore, because they were all cut up and spliced and diced and sent this way and repackaged and then sliced again, and no one knew who owns my mortgage. And there's even a court case or a multiple that I read about where people took their bank to court and said, I'm not going to continue paying my mortgage if you can't tell me who owns my mortgage, because why am I paying you? And they couldn't tell, and they sort of got the house for free, if I can remember correctly. Anyway, I think NFTs would allow you to package something up into an NFT, if it's securities or whatever, and then be able to trade those on and even split those, but keep track of where they actually and who's got them. And there's some really interesting use cases already starting in the DeFi world, where you can start to build packages, indexes of different shitcoins, and then allow them to be traded for you, but you have a receipt as an NFT, which you can then trade on if you don't want it anymore, instead of liquidating the internal assets. So there's lots of interesting things like that happening as well as the art world. Of course, the art world's the fun one, and it does make for good conversation. But no.
And Arc, Josh has got some rare Pepes, pretty much the first art NFT on the counterparty system. Ben, Arc, any NFTs for you?
No, not at all. It's something which maybe I'm culturally flat as a pancake as well. It's something which really doesn't interest me. I understand it has value, and they're going to be worth something to somebody. But I think I'm still amazed at how you can make multiple copies of digital stuff, and I still think that's pretty awesome. So I don't want to then make something scarce, apart from something like Bitcoin, which is useful. Obviously, you need digital scarcity, but when it comes to images and music and stuff, and video and whatever else, and media in general, I kind of want as much access as possible to everybody. But yeah, there's obviously some fascinating use cases with gaming, and with art stuff, and for transferring ownership. To be honest, I want public key cryptography to become much more just understood by the general public for what it is, because that would make life a gazillion times easier for transferring for making transfers of things like property, for verifying identity, just signing a message, and just signing over the deed of something, just to through public key cryptography makes life a gazillion times easier. So I want to see that happen, and then the NFT stuff can kind of overwhelm me a little bit because of the smart contracting, and I think it kind of become vulnerable, and there may be some bugs or whatever in the code, so it kind of scares me a little bit. But it's cool. I'm seeing people experiment with the technology and using it for useful stuff is great, yeah, of course. But I don't own anything non-fungible. Everything's fungible. Everything.
Ben makes an excellent point about public key cryptography. I was talking to some friends earlier about NFTs, and we're saying how the NFT is really just a pointer to the artwork. It's not really connected to the artwork. Maybe you have an IPFS hash if you're really lucky, but the connection is just kind of arbitrary. Whereas an NFT or a key connected to a digital object, you really would kind of have access control, in that you'd have a unique key that fits a unique lock. But I don't know if that's exactly what people think they're buying when they're buying these things. You're getting a string of letters and numbers that represents a key, that represents a token. As far as it having art on it or anything like that, that's more of a subjective thing, but I'm not sure that they're at that level yet. Martine, I know you don't have any NFTs, but if you did buy one, what kind would you get? Like a baseball player, or a football player, or rock star, or computer programmer? What would
Actually,
you want on your
I was
NFT?
stupid enough to spend some ether back in the days on a crypto kitty. So I have a crypto kitty
Ah,
somewhere,
crypto kitties.
but I neglected it.
Look at
But
these Bitcoin
yeah,
maximalists with their NFTs. Oh no.
I just like the idea that you could make baby crypto kitties, but I never did that. I was bored with it. I just like the idea, and then I got my crypto kitty, and I didn't have a rare one or something, but they all look the same, and it was just money wasted. And ever since the crypto kitties, I decided it's just not for me.
Oh, just money wasted, like all decorations and all artwork. Dan Eve, have you bought any NFTs? Do you have any favorites?
I don't have any NFTs. I have thought about buying them, but what I do have, I'm even more proud of, which is that very coin fest where I may have got a bit tipsy and been roaming around the bar with a flag, a Bitcoin flag, after being put to bed twice. That was on the same night that we ended up getting to the airport for 5 in the morning for the satellite. So I'm actually in an NFT, which I'm extraordinarily proud about. And yeah, that's so I'm chuffed to bits on that. I may get one soon. Look, yeah, I think they're kind of funky. I just can't, the exorbitant prices that some of them are just insane. I think there was one I was looking at the other day, and it was like it was about toilet roll, basically. It's like a toilet roll NFT, and they're quite funky. It's just like a toilet roll heading towards the moon, and it's floating, and it looks beautiful. But it was like thousands and thousands of dollars, and yeah, I just can't. I just can't justify spending thousands of dollars on toilet paper, but especially virtual stuff.
It's never too late. Jed Grant, have you bought any NFTs? Have any clever nicknames for your authentication tokens, like authentication token 1 or authentication token blue, anything like that?
No, they are unique. I haven't bought any NFTs. I actually find the disconcerting amount of centralization in the NFT marketplaces. So that's something I don't like. But yeah, I'm intrigued by NFTs, but not my cup of tea to buy. I'd rather have Bitcoin. But I'll use the NFTs. The tech is good, and yeah, the trust token. So we'll see. I'll have some of those, obviously.
It's up to me to stand up for collections and collecting and NFTs. Of course, as you guys know, I've talked about it before, but we made this project back in 2017 with my friends Travis and Rhett called Curio Cards, and you can check it out at curio.cards. Basically, we made kind of the first art NFTs on Ethereum, and they were forgotten about for 4 years because they weren't very successful, but now everything's crazy and everyone loves NFTs, so they created a wrapper and you can sell them on OpenSea now. So obviously my favorite NFTs are Curio Cards because at least 2 of them have my face on them, and there's a Travis one and a Rhett one too, so I think that's pretty fun. There's a lot of Bitcoin related Curio Cards, so if you like Bitcoin you could get those. But in a more modern sense, I do want to throw a shout out here to Wax and Atomic Assets. I got on there recently, and a friend of mine sent me some Wax so that I could learn how to make my own NFTs and try out the platform. And instead, I started buying Garbage Pail Kids because the Topps baseball card company is putting official Garbage Pail Kids, these kind of ugly baseball cards that they had in the 80s when I was a kid, and they're selling them on Wax. And what's so fun is they're not just making old Garbage Pail Kids, but they made new ones. I was looking at one, and it was the Tiger King as a Garbage Pail Kid. And I was like, wow, this is modern. This is new. And it was super fun. You can send around the cards in a link. I don't know how to do that yet, but once I figure it out, I'm going to send all these people Garbage Pail Kids cards, and then they'll be stuck with NFTs just like I am, and they'll be a collector. And pretty soon you want the full set. You got to get the full set.
Hey,
go ahead, Ben.
I've hashed my my wedding certificate into the Bitcoin blockchain. Does that work? I don't know.
It's very close to an NFT like that, and that's even with Curio Cards because it's a predecessor to NFT. It doesn't have all the features like the new NFTs. You can tell the minting order. You can be like, this is the first one printed. This is the second one, and the first one's more valuable. So with your wedding token, it might not have all the features of an NFT, but it's very close, very similar. And again,
is it transferable?
Yeah,
Can you transfer your wedding to someone else?
No, yeah, you can't do that.
This isn't going well. Can you get a multi-sig?
Uh-oh.
Well, we're all in trouble there because we've met Josh's wife. But let's get away from that. Let's move on to the next issue. Oh, we're out of issues, but there's still a chance to get your World Crypto Network t-shirt. We've got t-shirts at shop.worldcryptonetwork.com. And we've also got World Crypto Network, the audio podcast. Check it out wherever audio podcasts are heard. You can listen to audio versions of this show and other shows like it. But before we're over, it's time for predictions or story of the week. Dan, Eve, you're up first. Are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
I am not caught on the spot now because I've been having a good think about this, about the topics that have been topical around recent topics. And so I have three. I'm armed with three, and they're celebrity-based ones. So the first one is that Elon Musk is going to hook up his Shiba Inu to a neural network and use it to pilot the Starship SN-15, because hopefully it will land. The second one is that Trump's going to lose it and do a Playgirl centerfold NFT. And the third one is that Greta Thunberg is going to make a formal statement about Bitcoin boiling the oceans. And they're my out there predictions, because why not? Bitcoin's going to hit 400K, mofos.
We definitely can't get on Greta's radar soon enough. Jed Grant, do you have a prediction or a story of the week? And obviously Dan's a tough act to follow this week.
He is a tough act to follow. Yeah, a little story. We're about the Open Crypto Alliance. It's also a prediction. And if you want really amazing predictions, read this book called Islands in the Net. It's from 1988. I read it when it came out, Bruce Sterling. And that book is just full of today. It's got Luxembourg bankers with machine guns on drones, killing people in Texas, and data havens in the Caribbean. It's today. So it's pretty amazing to read those predictions when they actually have happened. But the Open Crypto Alliance is gearing up, and we're doing some interesting stuff. I predict it's going to get a lot more interesting. What we're doing is trying to prevent patents from being granted. So there were 22,000 patents applied for in the last 2 years. And those are all in the review process right now. And once they're published, they're still not granted. And we can then file opposition by discovering prior art or showing that someone thought of this before and did it before. And we can block those patents from being granted and keeping the technology behind Bitcoin and blockchain in the open, free to use environment. So that's what we're doing. And I think we're going to see some interesting stuff coming up. It's opencryptoalliance.org. We've got about 20 actions that are already launched and are going on different patents, and or at OpenCryptoX on Twitter to keep tabs on what we're doing. So I predict we're going to have some interesting stuff there.
It's great stuff at the Open Crypto Alliance, and check out right here on the World Crypto Network for an interview with Jed and I and Steven talking about the World Crypto Alliance. So it's good stuff. Let's see. Josh Segal, prediction or a story of the week. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh man, we're building such epic stuff at Vaultoro. I can't really fully talk about it, but I would say it's going to be it's something totally new and amazing. And just I guess sign up to Vaultoro to keep an eye on what we're doing there, because we'll drop some of it on all our clients over there. It's really, really exciting, and I just can't sleep. When you're building something so exciting, you're just like, I got to build this, and my whole team is like that now, and it's really exciting. Even weekends, I'm calling on my teammates, and they're like, yeah, that's great. But I can't really say much more than that. I am so sorry, but definitely sign up to Vaultoro, sign up to the newsletter or something like that, and or the RSS feed if you don't want to give your email, and check that out. And by the way, great work, Jed. Yeah, I really love what you guys are doing. It's really, really important work, And yeah, I've been keeping an eye on what you guys have been doing since we talked on the Tatiana show as well.
Very cool. Ben Ark, prediction or story of the week. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, brilliant work with the Open Crypto Alliance .org that is in the chat. Whether it's still in the chat, because I think YouTube's like pulls out links or something from the chat. I think is it in the chat on the yeah. So prediction, some Element stuff going on today. Later on, 6:30 p.m. PT time. Pacific. Is that Pacific? It's like Californian time, is it? Crypto Graffiti. Yeah, he's doing some DJ set, and then there's an extension which we've made where, well, Fiat Jeff made, where there's like a Eleanor pay, and then I think if you like the song, you can tip, and then 90% goes to the artist and 10% to the producer, and then I think you get like a download link as well in your wallet, which appears so you can download the song, something like that. It's dead cool. I don't really know myself; it's all kind of being kept under wraps, but I just know I've seen a load of commits in the GitHub, so it looks like it's going to be an interesting thing. So if you're awake at that time, 6:30 p.m. Check out Crypto Graffiti's Twitter feed, and then I'm sure you'll be able to find the link there. There'll be some interesting cutting edge streaming artist payment thing happening. So check that out.
It sounds awesome, but it's nothing like paying to slap a guy and blow smoke in his face. It's clearly a second place to that. Martine Wishmayer, your prediction or story of the week. Go ahead.
That's a funny one. Yes, I have two stories of this week, things I just noticed. One was the you got me off guard with that. I first have to apologize. Everything is a bit slow here in Portugal, and my internet connection was becoming so slow that I dropped out earlier in the broadcast. So that's, but it seems like it's okay right now. I'm not sure if you noticed the price had a bit of a small dip this week. But what I did notice is that more institutional investors got on board. So even though the price dipped, people holding on to their SATs basically moved up the ranks of Bitcoin whales because more institutional investors were buying. So if I look now, then it's quite a lot. Like if we just count the number of Bitcoins that the institutional investors right now have, like 6.76% of all Bitcoin ever mined. However, if we look at if we calculate using the number of Bitcoins that are possibly lost, like about 3.7 million, then we can see a different percentage where 9.54% of all Bitcoins, almost 10% of all Bitcoins mined to date, are being, basically are owned by large corporations. So, this for me is a sign that people, if they're considering selling, just don't sell because price will probably keep going up. The second item I found this week, which I really, really liked, is I'm not sure if the viewers are familiar with Breeze Wallet. It's one of those mobile wallets where you can use the Lightning Network to make easy payments. They added a new podcasting feature. So if you're a podcaster, you can add payment data basically inside your podcasting stream. It's the metadata that describes your podcast. And then if people use a Lightning wallet compatible podcast reader, they can listen to your podcast and they can pay per minute. They can say, well, Thomas is a cool guy. He's still saving for his laptop. You know what? I'll pay him 100 Satoshis a minute. And that automatically is you're streaming sats to the broadcaster. So while you're listening, you can stream sats in a constant way, or just send a boost where you can say, oh, is this such a cool joke he just made? I'll boost it with 10,000 sats. And I think this is a great way to monetize like the podcasts. It's a great way to use the Lightning Network because you can stream micro payments. This is something you can't do with regular payment networks. It's unique to the Lightning Network, and even though we've seen similar applications back in the old days with Bitcoin with on-chain transactions, it required prepayment of a certain amount into a browser-based wallet, and then it would deduct like per minute for the show or for the stream. And then once you closed your stream, it would refund you the remaining transactions or the remaining balance. But in reality, that often failed. Would your browser crash, then you lost it all, and there were all kinds of problems. But this, with Breeze Wallet, a podcast stream, podcasters have to register there. So Thomas will have to register World Crypto Network, but then you can actually stream Satoshis straight into the World Crypto Network wallet. Now that's just about the coolest thing I found this week. So that was my news for the week. I hope you all enjoyed it.
That sounds pretty cool. Definitely have to try it out. And Honoré mentioned, of course, Spinx chat. Very cool plugin for Lightning and all that, which can do streaming for podcasts. It's after the fact, but you can still like tip like 100 sats for the podcast whenever you hear something that you like. It's pretty cool. But we're running out of time, but we still have time to go to the Bitcoin predictor ball because otherwise you guys wouldn't know how to invest your stocks. So will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? Here we go. Against the advice of the Wikipedia, we're shaking the ball, which could cause air bubbles to form, decreasing the value of the ball, but maybe not its predicting abilities, because it says, will the price be higher this time next week? Signs point to yes. Signs point to yes. So it's a very positive prediction from the Bitcoin predictor ball. And we're running out of time, so we're going to head towards the end of the show. Thanks to Jed for being our guest today. Thanks to everyone else for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up. We forgot to say it a bunch of times today, so just pretend that we said it a bunch of times and you're like, oh, they've worn me out, and I'm going to push thumbs up today because they asked so many times. But yes, thumbs up and subscribe down below if you're brand new. We do these kind of shows every week for a long, long time here. So join the World Crypto Network, and thanks so much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.